Luke, bringing you my fades and sleepers for the Northern Trust this week. We're going to be going over my top overlooked plays of the week, my sleeper picks, as well as the guys being a little bit overhyped going into this week, and those are going to be my fades. We'll be using my data-based approach as always to identify the best plays of the week. So without further ado, let's hop into the fades for the Northern Trust. At number 3 for the fades, we have Webb Simpson at $8,900. He's going to be owned a little bit more than my liking at 16.8%. And I don't really hate his form coming in. Obviously, just one shot off the playoff last week. I just think his skill set could be a little bit exposed at Liberty National. So apart from lacking distance off the tee, that's very obvious with Webb Simpson. That's definitely going to hurt him a little bit this week. He's also somebody who's not his best at courses that are wide open. A lot of the fairways at Liberty National are very wide. They're not hard to hit at all. So a lot of the shots gained off the tee are with that length. So not only is he going to lack distance on the holes where you need it, he's also not going to get the benefit of hitting accurate tee shots. So I don't like that at all. I also don't like that he putted pretty poorly last week. He missed 5 putts from within 4 feet, 2 of them in the last 4 holes of the day. So while he likely won't miss a bunch of 4-footers again, it costed him last week. He clearly can't have a ton of confidence with that flat stick if he's missing putts from that short of range, and that definitely makes me worried about him. So he's a fade for me at the Northern Trust. At number 2, we have Daniel Berger, a $9,100 golfer who's the highest owned player on the entire slate at 21.5%. That's enough to make him a fade right there alone. But on top of that, he's also somebody who's being a little bit overrated after his recent performances at the WGC and the Open. Both those tracks were perfectly suited for his game. They were actually plays of mine both of those weeks. But this time around, the length at Liberty National, the emphasis on around the green play is going to be a little bit of a problem for Daniel Berger. Over his last 6 rounds, he's lost around the green in 5 of his last 6, bleeding well over 4 strokes to the field. And at Royal St. George's and TPC Deer Run, those were courses that had flat, closely mown areas around the green. Here at Liberty National, almost all of them are elevated greens. There's quite a bit of fescue, a little bit of rough as well. A little bit more undulation than they saw at those 2 courses. So he's likely to lose a lot more strokes to the field. So the conditions were really set for him those 2 weeks. I think he's being a little bit overhyped going into this week. And at 21.5% ownership, he's a fade for me. At number 1, we have Collin Morikawa, somebody I routinely fade on this channel just because the putter's not usually there. But of late, it's actually been the irons that are the problem for Morikawa. So he's $10,400, also going to be owned in over 17% of lineups. That makes him a fade for me. And believe it or not, he lost strokes with his irons last week, as I foreshadowed. That is extremely rare, but also something we saw at the Olympics. So first time it happened at the Olympics, I kind of wrote it off as a case of volatility. He's so consistent with those irons, but you're still going to lose from time to time. That's just how golf works. It's how volatility works in any facet of the world. But then we saw him lose strokes last week, which is 2 weeks after that, the start after that. Then it becomes a problem, right? One instance can be, due to chance, but to have 2 bad performances in a row, that's really something that's worrying me. On top of that, again, he's not one of the best putters in the world. He tends to struggle a lot with the flat stick, especially on bent grass greens like we have this week. And the fact that he's one of the highest owned options in the 10K range, I just don't think people have really done their homework and looked into his game of late. So he's a fade for me in GPP formats, and I'm going to have 0% of Morikawa this week. And now for our sleeper picks, kicking it off with Tony Finau. You get a little bit of salary relief as well at $8,200, and pretty much no one's owning him at 6.4%. He's my number 1 sleeper. He hasn't really looked like himself for a few weeks now, but again, you're getting low ownership as a result. And the truth is that Tony Finau is a great skill set fit for Liberty National. He's one of the rare players on tour that can really do it all from tee to green. He gains a ton of strokes off the tee. He can really hit it out there as far as he wants to. He, tends to hold back a little bit to prioritize accuracy. He's also somebody who gains a lot of strokes on approach, typically about half a stroke per round for Tony Finau. He's also a top 5 player around the green. So from tee to green, if you're looking at tee to green specialists, he's always going to come up in your modeling. He's a top 10 model fit this week for me as a result. But on top of that, he also gets hot with the putter. We see that, every other event essentially for Tony Finau. Last year, it was literally every other event. He's finishing top 10. We haven't seen it in quite a while. He's been working on his swing a little bit with his swing instructor. He's really gone past that though. He's started to stripe it a lot of late. He just hasn't been able to put it all together. So I expect him to rebound after those 2 bad performances. They weren't courses or tracks that typically fit his skill set. Here at Liberty National, it definitely does. So I think he has a good chance to rebound. Again, he's at very low ownership. You don't have to invest very much into him to get over the field, and I think doing so is wise. At number 2, we have Justin Thomas at $9,800. He's a little bit more expensive than I'd like him to be. But as a result, his ownership is extremely low at just 8.5%, right around there for this week. I mean, he ranks as my model's number 3 play this week. So his tee to green prowess, he absolutely stripes the ball from tee to green. So as a result, I think he's a great course fit here at Liberty National. Only Jon Rahm and Collin Morikawa outshine him in tee to green this year. And on top of having a great skill set fit, he comes in being relatively overlooked and with similar high upside to the guys priced around him. So at the WGC, he returned to season-long form from tee to green. Looked great off the tee, great with his approach play, great around the green when he missed, which wasn't very often. But, he was a little bit volatile with the putter. The one little bit of brightness that we had with Justin Thomas's game is that he gained strokes in 2 of his rounds. He had 2 ugly rounds on the green. That's why he didn't really contend at the WGC. All he has to do this week is just gain a stroke putting, and he's right in contention or even winning this golf tournament. That's how good his game is from tee to green. He gets hot from with his irons as well from time to time. So it's very possible that he goes out and shocks the world this week at the Northern Trust. And finally, for our number 1 sleeper, we have Dustin Johnson, priced at $11,000. I like that he's coming in at just 10.2% ownership, but I also think that he has a lot of positive momentum coming into this week's event. So he may have found something at the Travelers. He's gained strokes off the tee and on approach in 8 of his 10 rounds since then. And on top of the improved ball striking, he's been back to his usual self around the green with his putting as well. Now that he gets back on the bent grass greens, I think that's only going to continue even more. He's 0.21 shots gained better per round on that surface. And again, I continue that positive momentum to build. He's priced higher than I'd like him to be. Again, that's why he's as low owned as he's coming in. But he has potential to go out, win any golf tournament, even storm the field like he did at this very event last year. So I think it's a little bit surprising that he's owned where he is. I mean, obviously we're on a different venue, a different track, but usually the guy that won last year gets at least a little bit more attention from the masses, at least from the casuals. So I have him right around 10% right now. He could potentially come in even lower owned, and if he does, he's going to be one of my favorite leverage plays up top on the entire slate. That's all for my fades and sleepers for this week's Northern Trust. Let me know in the comments who your biggest fade this week is, as well as your favorite sleeper pick. I'll be picking one of the comments for a free month of my Patreon projections, so make sure to go ahead and do so. And speaking of my Patreon, make sure to check that in the description as well. On there, you guys get my projections for every player in this week's field, as well as for all the tournaments coming forward. So I have my modern rankings on there, also my ownership update, a player poll, access to a Discord where you can ask me any questions, and access to the community, all that kind of good stuff. Best part is it's only $1. So again, link is in the description. It's a very good value for you guys. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the content. Not only does it help me with growing the channel, and also make sure that you guys can catch my content as soon as I post it. Even if you guys are subscribed, you guys have to follow the algorithm. YouTube kind of chooses what you guys see. So if you guys like it, that kind of thing, you guys are much more likely to catch it. If you guys want to make sure you see it every single time, no matter what, there is a little, I believe it's a bell right next to the subscribe sign there, where if you click that, it gives you notifications. So either way, I really appreciate the support. But with all